All right, hello, welcome back to the Cup Chasers podcast. The Arsenal have embarrassed themselves once again. It was a tinker, it was a change, it was a new formation, and they looked like they didn't really have any idea what was going on, and subsequently made the game the next day not mean a thing. Pretty mad about it, pretty sad about it. And if you're like me, go ahead and get the likes up on the video, subscribe to the channel, if not for any other reason but for sympathy and pity, and go ahead and get the notification bell on. We'll be back real soon, of course.
Yeah, see, and I 100% agree with you, Jake. I don't think Pep Guardiola is the type to let their boys go, for a swim in the pool for practice and have a corporate day, lazy day off. Like
Case in
he's there
point.
to right. He's there to get points. He's there to get the job done, and that mentality. And it's hard because I think Pep in and of himself has built a culture around himself, which is what I attribute to very few managers. Like Jose's able to do with players what he wants. Pep's able to do with players what he wants. I would say Tuchel, but this Bayern spell looks. I mean, I understand coming in a mid-season is hard for anybody, but I did not
Yeah.
expect him to lose the game against Leipzig. Anyway, we'll
Still
cover
Bayern.
that.
I mean, come on, it's still Bayern.
Well, right, it's still
Let's be
Bayern.
real.
The
Let's be
talent
real.
you have under your disposal. Right. Anyway,
Let's be real.
but they're able to take players and take teams and command out of them what other players would then you'd lose the locker room is what we've heard about some managers where it's complete player. I'm not playing for this guy. No one gives heart. It's what we saw under this with Potter. You lose the locker room, you lose a lot of games, but those boys don't seem to lose a lot of locker rooms. Like they seem to still command this. I will demand this out of you. You can be pampered all you want, but you're going to play this way, and we're going to have a relationship. We're going to grind through the good times and bad times, and it's like they cultivate this aura around it. Like I credit Klopp to this too. Like these managers who can create an atmosphere around themselves, regardless of where they are. Because Klopp did it before he came to Liverpool. He's done it at Liverpool. Pep did it at Bayern. He did it at Barca. He'll do it at City. He'll do wherever he's next. Jose did it at Chelsea. They just do it. It's serial winners, and they command what they need to out of the guys. I thought an interesting point was when De Bruyne, like the relationship side, when De Bruyne can look at his manager and tell him to shut up and tell me to stop passing the ball, and your manager doesn't immediately bench you for the next 10 games. Like that shows the type of relationship you're cultivating within your squad. Like that's rare. Like we don't see that very often in this game. Like Cristiano Ronaldo looks at his manager and tells him to shut up. Ten Hag literally told him to, hit the bleachers. Right, hit the bleachers. Like,
and that's why Pep and City are the best. Any thoughts on the Arsenal performance, Patrick?
Well, kind of going back to the whole discussion in general, I think that, and I know you mentioned this when we were talking about the game, and again, I just saw highlights. I did not watch the game because I thought Arsenal will take care of business, so I don't need to watch this one. And well, that didn't happen.
Shocking.
We're talking about Pep and cultures and whatnot, but and that's the case. I'm not saying that's not the case, but it takes you. It's the personality. Pep's got this personality, as I like to call him. He's a killer. The dude just wants to squeeze the life out of you, and he finds pleasure in it. With what they did to Real, did you see how happy he was? I haven't seen that man that happy in a long time because he squeezed the absolute life out of that team.
Yeah.
And my question going forward for Arsenal is, does Arteta have that ability in him? Does the team take his personality, and maybe they already have his personality? And if that's the case, that's a little bit of a concern because, I mean, we could just go back to all the draws that led to City catching up, and then these last two performances, and you're like, and I get Saliba's been out. That's a huge loss. I'm not saying it's not.
They've lost their legs. They started slowly not being able to keep up with that level of like the demand that they have put into games. That run and gun from Saka for 90 minutes, because he needs to be as fast as possible for 90 minutes, tracking back and everything. Just watch their game film. Since they played the Arsenal way, they lost their legs game in, game out, game in, game out, game in, game out. That's what I mean, I would hope.
But I also think, I mean, and we talked about it when they were winning. You know, they would give like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They'd get out ahead, and then they'd cruise.
Yeah.
And then let teams come back and give them a scare or potentially draw or
To
lose.
tie the game. That's how they tied both ghost games.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think the Arteta project's going well. I'm not saying it's not, but I do think it's something to watch for next season. Do we see these spells of Arsenal going forward? If we do, it's a major concern. Major concern. Because one, that means that your players have taken on the personality of the coach for sure. And that personality is not leading to higher performances. And you see it with Pep. I mean, like you said, you know, when we were talking about the City segment, I mean, Erling Haaland runs out for what, 15 minutes, and he's desperate to score a goal. It's not just because he wants some record. It's because that's been instilled in him by the coach. Because every moment that you play for City, maybe the last moment you play, because somebody right behind you is going to be a little bit better if you don't. And so it'll be interesting to see how Arteta builds the team going into Champions League, how that creates more competition, how that brings players to their utmost level consistently. That, I think, is one thing to think about, because here recently, Arsenal's been anything but consistent. I mean, they got 3 on Chelsea. What else is new? But even then, they were still kind of poor in that game.
And then we were brilliant, and then we haven't shown up since.
Yeah.
I have a question, because I think X brought up a good point, and Patrick kind of is sort of giving the bookend to the idea that was in my head. I think you played to the gold standard, right? So for the longest time, it was Sir Alex Ferguson, and you were playing to the standard, and Arsene Wenger met the challenge several times, even though it was difficult. He met the challenge several times, but it was hard to get there. You had to have like some solid guys and deal with
a spine is what they used to. Yeah, they had in their locker room,
right? And you had to deal with challenges that come. So, for example, I understand and I respect that Saliba being out was a big loss, but it's also known that they still were winning games when he was gone. I mean, you have the statistics that they got scored on more since he wasn't there. But the thing was, they were still getting results. So that means there was something there that existed. So you have to ask the question, because I was looking at something, and we talked about this several weeks ago. When John Stones went out, and I think, Jake, you called it out first. When John Stones went out early in January, you were like, well, who's going to take this up? And see, that's where what Patrick says makes so much sense, because that's the character of the manager. For example, you've heard probably that they say Pep Guardiola would field 11 midfielders if he could. Because if you play in the midfield, you understand the whole game.
Yeah.
You want, because to be a 10, you're still a midfielder in essence, right? To be a 6 or even 8.
You got to play a little bit of defense and cut some passing lanes.
And so if you're there, losing a player shouldn't matter. So we have to think, okay, Arsenal had an injury. Well, Kyle Walker had poor form, and they stuck Rico Lewis in. So if we talk about Frank Lampard, well, Frank, play the kids. But Mikel, your team is way deeper than Chelsea's team. And I don't mean in numbers, because no one's deeper than Chelsea in numbers. But I mean quality. In quality,
right.
They're deeper.
Thank you.
Right? So, for example, Jake and Patrick and you have been calling out, why is this guy at Arsenal not playing? Why is that guy not playing? Why are they not playing? A friend of mine said this to me. I don't know what it goes to, but excuses are the tools of incompetence. You find an answer. So, okay, Saliba is out, but you still won. So that means that you could win without him. And then if you're saying, well, I'm going to tinker, did you tinker in a way that you saw this player would benefit? So if Partey doesn't fit in there, maybe don't start Partey. Put another guy there and let him play, because it's not about allegiance to a guy. It's about the success of the system. And so you look at that because, for example, I saw a thing where it showed City's 5 champions, whatever, the last 5. 2 years ago, Phil Foden was the starting forward. He was the 9 because Aguero was hurt all year. The year after that, Walker wasn't starting because he was out of form the whole year. You put in guys who want to play, and you figure out the game to the strengths they have. If Partey can't do that job, move him. Put somebody else there and let him play, right? Or play a different way, you know? And so it's just confusing to me because Arsenal are clearly better, and Arteta has the potential to be a top-tier manager, but the lapses he's having are concerning because he's in the Arsene Wenger seat to the Pep Guardiola's Alex Ferguson. What are you going to do? Because, I mean, Pep is not going to be there forever. Pep is not the greatest manager ever because there's always new managers. Right now, he's the bar, though. And so you have to look and say, okay, if this is the bar and they make adjustments, if I'm going to tinker, maybe tinkering's not my thing. Maybe man management's my thing. Maybe shape is my thing. Maybe allowing my guy, Odegaard, to dictate from where he is my thing. But you got to figure that out. And playing and knowing and going in a press conference and saying, we still have hope, and then doing that, come on, man.
That's what bothers. I mean, that's what bothers me. Like, you could have gone into this game, and you should have gone to this game saying, all right, we're going to put pressure on City. We're going to make them win tomorrow. Like, they have to win tomorrow now. And you didn't. You even come close. And that starts at the manager. Like, what are you telling the guys in the locker room? You know, that's kind of my issue with Frank right now is, well, there's many issues with Frank, but he says one thing about a player, you know, in a press conference, but then he doesn't play him. Or he says one thing about this player in a press conference and says, oh, they need to improve, they need to do this, and he keeps playing them. And it's a mixed message. So if you're saying in the press, hey, we still got a chance, what are you saying in the locker room to make your team not come out and perform?
That's the question, isn't it? I think it's only right that speaking of managers, gotta say big up, as they say in England, to Steve Cooper, who Forrest stuck with him. He had a kind of a Chelsea-esque job to do because Forrest had 97 players as well, and they're all brand new this season. What was they brought in 25 players this?
I thought they brought in 36.
Something crazy this summer, yeah. And he's managed to keep them up for the first time and who knows how long. Got to credit Forrest for what they did, getting their win, getting over the line, and securing promotion. That City ground was roaring. It was raucous, and it's good to see that in the Premier League. That home field advantage doing big things, and I think for Forest that is what's won it for him. That's what's kept them up, kept them in the league. So we will definitely be seeing them next season. Looking forward to trying to get some revenge there next season. And if you're a Forest fan and you're excited about all the points they've accumulated to stay in the league, go ahead and smash the like button, get that subscription on, and get the notification bell on. We will be back real soon.